I'm about to show you in this video when we can likely expect to see the real recovery for crypto begin, the one that we have all been waiting for. Because this chart not only shows us exactly why the Bitcoin and altcoin prices have been bouncing strongly over the past few days and struggling to push lower despite all of the panic and fear in crypto surrounding Michael Saylor selling Bitcoin and war in the Middle East seemingly flaring up again, but it also shows us the path that Bitcoin and the altcoins will likely be taking over the next 3 or so months ahead. So if you want to know what crypto is preparing to do in the next few days and weeks ahead so that you can prepare yourself accordingly, then do me a favor, hit the like button and let's get into today's video. Now guys, before we jump across and check out this chart, which has been accurately predicting the Bitcoin price moves over the past few years and is telling us a very clear picture about what we can probably expect to see over the next few months, just a quick disclaimer. Nothing I say in this video is financial advice. Everything I say is for entertainment purposes only. If you wish to invest in crypto, you should understand that it's risky and you can lose money. So don't risk money that you can't afford to lose, and always do your own research before investing in anything. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into it. Now guys, jumping across and looking at the Bitcoin price, you can see over the past few days we have seen some very interesting movement from Bitcoin. You see, Bitcoin has been pushing back down into this support zone that was first established all the way back in early February, and right now the price of Bitcoin sits well above that price of $59,000. In fact, Bitcoin now sits well above the price that it was back at even in late February, which has been confusing a lot of analysts out there. Because ultimately we've had a lot of panic and fear. We have had a lot of negative events in the media that have many people believing we should be much lower than this right now. Because we obviously had Michael Saylor selling Bitcoin. The guy was supposed to be the one who was going to save us. The one that was just going to continue buying Bitcoin and force prices up forever. We also had war in the Middle East starting to flare up once more. And many people believe that it was that war that caused all of this painful price action that we have seen over the past few months. But actually, that news is semi-irrelevant. Because the news itself isn't what drives crypto prices. Yes, it can amplify moves at certain times, but really what's been driving the market over the past few years is none other than liquidity. But I know, many of you are thinking, oh no, is he about to talk about M2 money supply again? Because we talked about that last year, and we all know how that went wrong, right? And you're right, it did go wrong. The model seemingly broke. And for those of you who weren't around then and not really sure what I'm talking about, allow me to explain. You see, this blue line is the M2 money supply. And M2 is effectively the freely available money in any particular economy. Kind of like the cash that you have in the bank, the savings, etc. All the money, the free liquidity that's flushing around in economies right now. And when there's lots of M2, the theory is that everyone should have more money, and then ultimately risk assets tend to do better. And as you can see, by adding a 12-week delay, which means that the Bitcoin price right now is 12 weeks behind what you're seeing up here, you can see that back in 2024 and before that, Bitcoin traced this very, very accurately. Because the blue line, as you can see, went up like the Bitcoin price did here. It then tracked sideways like the Bitcoin price did over this period of time. It then goes up throughout this period of time, tracking very perfectly, comes down like this, and you can see each and every peak and each and every trough is in line with basically what happened on the Bitcoin price. And if you can remember to a video that I made all the way back in April of 2025, we caught this low absolutely perfectly. Everyone was expecting to see lower prices, but we followed the global M2 and we caught this absolute winner. This was absolutely perfect. We were all celebrating that we had cracked the code of what was going on. And then all of a sudden, it didn't work anymore. And I get reminded about this every single day. Remember the M2 money supply? Believe it or not, I remember it. And here's why it's such a big joke. Because this was working perfectly until it didn't. You see, all the way back in July last year, the model kind of broke. Because Bitcoin was tracking very nicely along. And then all of a sudden in July, the Bitcoin price started to kind of trend sideways. And quite clearly, the M2 carried on up and is still going up. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin price went down and is still just sat down in and around the bottom. So what broke? What does Bitcoin really follow? Does it even follow liquidity anymore? Well, I found the answer to this. And actually, I found it last year, and I talked about it on this channel, but sadly, I didn't really pay enough attention to it, and ultimately, that got me in a lot of trouble. And we'll talk about that in another video, because I learned a very important lesson from that, and I think it's very important for you guys to understand what went wrong. You see, the global M2 is made up of lots of different M2s from around the world. Okay, major banks, the United States, China, UK, and these are like the United States, which is this one here, the green line, this one here, China, the second biggest economy in the world, has huge impacts on the global M2. And you can see that these basically track fairly similarly to what's happening in M2 in general. And this one here is the UK, the purple line. Again, fairly similar, a little bit more volatile than the others, but as you can see, definitely kind of tracks in line with the rest of them. And then you got this one, which is the Euro. Again, similar kind of patterns lining up. But you're going to notice something. all of these carry on up around the same time that Bitcoin deviated from the global M2 and started going in the other direction. But for those of you who've been paying close attention to the crypto market over the past few years, there is a very big economy that I haven't mentioned. Have you guessed what it is yet? Let me put it on. You see, this is Japan. And Japan M2 is probably one of the most critical of all of these M2s for a very real reason. Now, before I talk about the reason why the Japan M2 is not only down, but also why the Japan M2 is far more critical to risk assets like Bitcoin than anything else and can help us to understand where Bitcoin's likely headed in the future, let's just quickly look at how accurate this has been for the Bitcoin price over the past few months. You can see that this is very volatile, shakes up and down, and I know it looks like there's not much correlation until you start to understand something. You see, the top of this chart here is perfectly aligned with the top of that spike all the way up there. The bottom of this chart here is perfectly aligned with basically when the Bitcoin price decides to start going up. Okay, you get these two chops in here on the bottom of that zone there. Okay, and then you get this next peak up here that happens on the 2nd of December 2024. And you can see this is when the Bitcoin top comes in. We then get a perfect bottom here. See? Perfect top coming in here. So while Bitcoin started to head sideways and go down, the global M2 carried on up, but the Japan M2 started to top out and go down. And this is what we missed, because in October, this happened. And you can see price tracks down, goes sideways during this period of time, tracks down. It then rounds off perfectly, comes back up like it did back in May. It then comes back down and rounds off to literally where we are right now. And before we look at where the Bitcoin price is likely to head over the next few weeks, based on what this M2 model is showing us, let's understand why the Japan M2 is the critical element, the key perhaps behind what Bitcoin may well be following. Why Japan M2 is so important. And you see, over the past few years, it's actually very clear that the Japan M2 is probably the most accurate one in calling where the Bitcoin price is going to go. You see, the global M2, this blue line, basically continues to just peak all the way up into June 2022. And if you look at the Bitcoin price in June 2022, it was all the way down here, somewhere around $19,000, having fallen from $70,000, losing a massive portion of its market cap. But turning off the blue line and looking at the Japan M2, you can see this first peak comes in here, basically March 2021, which was in line with what happened here. We then get that dip down in the middle coming in here, okay? Then you get up into the second peak, which is this first one here, and then into the next one, which is this one here. Now, it's important to realize that you're probably thinking, well, this should be a lower high. I've noticed that it's not necessarily like that. What we're looking at is peaks and troughs. These are basically our indicators of price changing reaction. It doesn't necessarily tell us the level that it's going to go to. It's just going to tell us when we can expect to see ups and downs. And ultimately, this is all we really care about, because it's telling me when I probably want to get in the market, and it's telling me when I probably want to be out of the market. And what you can see here rolls over. You get this like sideways portion of time, which is this. You then roll over, okay, and it goes all the way down here. Eventually it bottoms, and when it bottoms, it bounces, and then you get that recovery after the FTX crash. So while yes, you see all the news and stuff piling up like FTX crash and Terra Luna and whatever, really the thing that's been driving it is this, and then you have the news and stuff and drama added on top. Now, why Japan M2? Why is it so important? Now, let's think about this for a moment. All of these different central banks play kind of a different role, okay? For example, the US is the world's biggest consumer. They use most products. They import all their products from other countries like China, meaning that China is the biggest producer. And what China's been doing for years is basically building stuff, selling it to the US. And then with the money that they've made from those sales, they then go and buy the debt from the US, which means that the US can expand very quickly. It builds all this debt and then borrows more money from China to keep building the debt and keep consuming products from China. You get the picture. But there's another one in this, and it is Japan. Over the past 30 or so years, Japan has had pretty much 0% interest rates. At times, they've had negative interest rates, which literally means that you can borrow money and be paid to borrow money. This is because Japan wanted to kind of make their currency more powerful, and it did work very well for a while, giving Japan a very strong, booming economy. And what happened is people continued to borrow money. So as you continued to borrow money to go and buy things like property, to go and invest in stocks and bonds, like all of the banks were doing on a massive scale, things were good. You could borrow money for free. You could make like 5-10% somewhere else. And what that allowed you to do, because it was seemingly risk-free money, was stack into more and more leveraged positions. However, this over the past few years has begun to change, and this is where the problems really started to come in. Japan decided that its inflation had got out of control. They needed to start putting up interest rates. And this is a big deal. Now, you probably realize this. If you've borrowed loads of money and you get a salary that kind of covers that, that's fine. But if all of a sudden those interest rates go up, then you start to find yourself in a bit of a problem, because maybe you could have afforded that £500 mortgage each month, but now you're being charged £800, £900, and that's a bit of a problem. Imagine this going from 0 interest rates to suddenly going to multiple percentage interest rates. This means that suddenly everybody is panicking and trying to force their money back to paying off the loans in Japan. So all of the money that's been propping up stocks and property and crypto and everything suddenly gets squeezed out. And this is why whenever you see news around the Japan carry trade over the past few years, you should think, oh no, this is bad, because this is basically where the money's been dragged out of crypto and why suddenly you see a panic happen, and you see it in the charts. And this is it. That free available money that comes out of Japan and has been washing around is basically the differentiator that's been basically controlling the Bitcoin price. Maybe that's why Satoshi Nakamoto is a Japanese name. All jokes aside, what we really care about right now is what's going to happen next for the Bitcoin price, and more importantly for the Japan M2, which seemingly is controlling the Bitcoin price to a high degree. And in order to show you that, I'm going to show you this chart, which is the DXY, and is the key here to understanding what drives the M2. Remember, every different central bank in the world plays a certain role against the other. Borrowers, lenders, etc. Now we know that the US is one of the biggest borrowers, and one of the biggest lenders was Japan. So what happens with the dollar has big impact on the Japanese M2. Now on top, you've got the DXY. And if I right click on the numbers here and I invert the scale, you're going to flip the DXY upside down. And then you're going to see, if we turn off this, instead of saying 12 to say 0, so that it is present day, because DXY has instant implications to what's happening in Japan and other countries around the world, then you can see very clearly what has been moving the Japanese M2 money supply over time. And it is simply the dollar index. If the dollar is strong, the Japanese M2 will go down. If the dollar weakens, the M2 goes up. Here's the reason. If the DXY is very strong, it doesn't give the Japanese central bank much freedom. Okay, so they have to be tighter. Okay, as soon as the dollar weakens, they can loosen up a bit. They can start to ease off a little bit, and this pushes the M2 up. So whatever the dollar is doing today is effectively going to control the M2. And whatever the M2 is doing today is effectively what Bitcoin is going to be doing in 3 months. So effectively, whatever the dollar is doing today is going to instantly result in what the Japanese M2 is doing. And whatever the Japanese M2 is doing today is likely going to start showing up in the Bitcoin chart, at least on these recent models, in around 3 months' time, giving us a good forward-looking indicator about where the Bitcoin price may well be in 3 months or so. So what we effectively want to see is the dollar continuing in this direction to drive that M2 up. So let me remove the Japanese M2, uninvert the scale so it's back the right way around, and you can see this. Dollar has basically been pretty strong over the past few months. And this is basically what's been causing Bitcoin and crypto a lot of problems. This is basically January 2026. You can see here, this is May. So the question is, how likely is it that the DXY is going to sell off from here? Well, let's just have a look. The DXY right now is clearly running into an area of resistance here that was previous support. We know, simply looking at charts, that this is likely going to get rejected, and it's going to get rejected because of a number of things. One, the dollar's been very strong, but also you've got the Federal Reserve starting to look at the potential of bringing down interest rates, starting to do things like quantitative easing, which they have been doing more and more of. And with CPI numbers now starting to come in a bit lower after what's happened in the Middle East slowly easing off, things are looking good for a potential interest rate cut coming this year and basically weakening the dollar. Anything that weakens the dollar, think good news for crypto down the line, okay? Because historically, a strong dollar hasn't been very good for Bitcoin or crypto in general. So the thing that everybody has been waiting for, where is Bitcoin headed over the next few months? What can we expect to see? Well, let's just have a look. As you can see, something to pay attention to is this. Now, the Bitcoin price, as you can see, is likely rounding off somewhere in and around here. And from what I'm looking at here, this is what I expect to see happen, okay? It's not a crystal ball prediction, but this is what I can see happening. We are going to bounce, probably, from where we are right now, and you can see it's already happening, somewhere until kind of later July. Now, again, don't use this like a crystal ball, whatever else. It's right until it's not right anymore. But effectively, I can see this running up somewhere until the end of July. Now, you will see a pushback down here that suggests that we're then going to top out into July and then run back down into this zone. Now, I do think that there is a chance that we top out somewhere in July and push back down again. And if we can look at this on a daily, you can see a very, very strong bounce here, suggesting that the other end of it is going to start heading back in the other direction. Remember, if the DXY RSI fails to go up through the resistance, then that's very, very positive for what's happening on Bitcoin. And what I've seen historically looking through these charts is as long as we have a higher low on this M2, it's typically pretty bullish for us. If you look at these like lower highs, effectively it's the final kind of wick that causes the final kind of major reversal. You can see this one here, but ultimately if you look at higher lows, slightly different situation. As you can see, this is higher than this one. And if we look at the Bitcoin price, despite this not being very different, you can see that the low here was around $52,000. The low here up in April of 2025 was around $76,000, 43% higher than here. So for example, that would be around somewhere like $91,000. I do think that there is potential that we see a stronger bounce that could bring us up towards maybe this one that we saw before, maybe even higher. Okay, remember, it doesn't tell us the price, it just tells us when we're likely to see pivot points. Maybe then roll over somewhere in July to find what I would imagine would be a higher low, meaning that the bottom could well be in here. This could be the very bottom that we're looking at. If this bounces higher, I do expect that this is probably the shape that we're going to see. Okay, and that would confuse a lot of people because lots of people would be panicked thinking that we're going to roll over into an October low or whatever, which is the common belief, but ultimately a higher low and then push off from there. Now that's just paying attention to this. There's obviously lots of other things going on around the world, lots of news, things like Clarity Act and whatever else, okay? But ultimately, this has been a very good indicator to be paying attention to over the times. Now this is Bitcoin, not the altcoins. What about the altcoins? Let's just look at what's going on in the altcoins. Now over the past few weeks, I think it's been pretty clear that the altcoins don't follow the same M2 as Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin obviously follows M2, and altcoins do tend to follow Bitcoin a bit. But when altcoins have very good periods of time, when Bitcoin's also having good periods of time, is also linked to something else. You need two major catalysts to drive altcoins. Bitcoin is one, and the other thing is the economy. When the economy is performing strongly in general, and you have lots of quantitative easing, lots more money kind of being driven in, then the altcoins will tend to do well. And I know this because I can show you these two charts and how cleanly they correlate. On top, you've got the others versus Bitcoin. On bottom, you've got copper versus gold. These charts are almost identical and they explain exactly why the altcoin season never really kicked in any particular meaningful fashion since back in 2021, which was that. This is basically elongated bear market for altcoins versus Bitcoin in line with copper versus gold. Now, why does copper versus gold have any correlation to altcoins? Well, copper goes up when economies are strong, okay? Copper goes up because there's lots of production and manufacturing going on. People are buying houses and cars and computers, which all use copper components. Copper prices going up shows a strong economy. People have got more money, everything's good. When people have more money, then maybe they buy altcoins. And there's other charts that correspond with this as well. This is the Federal Reserve balance sheet. I mean, look roughly at how it goes up and down over time versus copper versus gold. If you put in others versus BTC in here down the bottom, you can see similar kind of patterns shaping up as well to what we saw before. Money printing is good, and you can see that this is heading higher, which is why altcoins have been heading higher against Bitcoin over this time. Once you start to bring back M2 money supply pumping into Bitcoin, okay, whenever that starts to happen, when you see that dollar falling, you're going to see a very strong Bitcoin, and it's all going to happen this time with a strong balance sheet. So you're going to have Bitcoin pumping, which is one component that altcoins need, and you're going to have the other component that altcoins need, which is more and more liquidity, okay? That hopefully explains why Bitcoin moves how it has been moving over the past few years, and why altcoins have been moving how they have been moving over the past few years as well. So hopefully that makes sense. Guys, if this doesn't make sense and it was confusing, go back and watch it again. Try to understand really these links behind, and do me a favor, because this is a lesson that I really learned last year, okay? I found out this information. I made a video about it, and I'll refer to it in another video, okay? And I talked about the Japan M2 and why the M2 from Japan and Europe were key to be paying attention to versus just the global M2 last year. Guess what? I kind of ignored it. I kind of ignored it because I was still thinking that there was going to be other things going on, other things that were going to drive catalysts. And I took away the best piece of evidence that could really have helped me out a lot last year, and I made that mistake. Okay, so don't just discard information because it's not in line with what you kind of want to happen. Do yourself a favor, go towards the content that maybe makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, because sometimes you're going to find something very useful. Put this into your charts. Use that M2 money indicator. All you got to do is get to indicators, M2 money, okay? And it's this one called Sakane at the top, right? Get that one, put it into your charts, have a play with this, see what you can figure out. Guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button. Put a lot of research and time and effort into making this video. I actually made this video yesterday, but some certain platform out there decided that it wasn't suitable. to have on and removed it, so I've had to make it again. So yeah, do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment down below as well. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can keep up to date with what's going on in crypto and start to pick apart what is really happening in these markets. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.